Sushi. Thank you, Lynette. We'll probably wait for a couple more people to come in, then we'll do a quick intro and get cooking. Anyone have anything special or fun or a special meal that they had this week that they want to share? Nothing special.
Just fruit soup.
Ooh. What kind of soup was it?
It was just every vegetable I could find from Just Roots all in one pot with some chicken broth and water. That's it. It was delicious.
Oh, I believe it. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, just nature.
Scott made some really good like squash kind of a thing with pasta that was one of the food items at pickup, but by the time we got there, it was all out. But Scott took the recipe and like made this really awesome squash pasta. So it was like zucchini and squash kind of all together with garlic and spaghetti noodles. And it was really good.
Oh my goodness. Oh, they were like, it was using zucchini as the noodles.
It was in addition. So there was like pasta, and then in addition, it was like zucchini and squash kind of in as the sauce. It was really good.
So yummy. Awesome.
Here's cucumber, bell pepper, rice and nurses. Like medium hot. We're gonna use.
Welcome. So folks, I think I'll just start with a little brief introduction of these cooking classes and myself and Lynette, and then we'll get rolling. I think most of you know us by now, but if you don't, welcome to Just Roots Kitchen Intuition. These classes are designed to help you use your own intuition in the kitchen and start to learn and be familiar with, or take on new skills and ideas. And at Just Roots, we're so passionate about sharing food, resources around food, and cultural traditions around food. So we're so excited that we get to do these workshops and that people come to them. So thank you for coming. My name is Brooke. I am an employee at Just Roots. I do a lot of community engagement work, and I also am a lover of cooking. I've worked in professional kitchens, and I mostly just enjoy cooking at home and communally with other people. If you're local, you should check out one of our community meals. We have those on Saturdays, the last Saturday of the month, and we just cook a big meal together. Last week we had Vietnamese spring rolls, and we did chicken and tofu spring rolls. It was very good. But yeah, so if you ever have suggestions that you'd like us to try, this recipe was something someone suggested doing. They wanted to learn sushi, so we did it. So if you ever want to pass along recipes and they're feasible for us to get ingredients that are local and can store for long enough as it takes to get your boxes, then great. Send those in those forms that we send out, the survey forms, and please let us know if we're going too fast, if we're talking too much, if we're talking too little. We want to hear your feedback to make these classes more valuable for you and for us too. So feel free to slow us down. You can unmute yourself and just let us know if we're moving too fast or too slow, or you want something to be explained. You can also message Lynette in the chat. And Lynette, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm here, the community care coordinator at Just Roots. Welcome, and let's have fun.
Great. Well, it's a small group today, which is awesome. So feel free to chat and talk a lot and all of that. We're gonna just go over a couple things that you're gonna need today. So the vegetables we chose were red pepper, cucumber, and carrot, and that was mostly out of that those items look very beautiful together when cut up in a sushi roll. But you feel free to add avocado or other vegetables that you think might be good, or even towards the end if you want to fry some sweet potato or do the little tempura, that would be yummy too. We are going to use measuring cups. Obviously, we're going to have a cup of rice, cup of water. Sushi rice should have come in your kit, and If you don't have sushi, you can use jasmine rice or regular white rice and just add the mixture that we're going to be making, which is mainly rice vinegar with sugar and salt. You probably had a pack of sushi nori that looked a little different, but is the same as this one. Something to strain your rice with. So we're going to rinse off all the extra starches on the rice. You can do that in a pan. I just like doing it in like a little strainer because it's a little bit easier. The sharpest knife you got at home. This is for cutting the sushi and the vegetables if you'd like, but I use the sharpest knife I have because cutting the sushi is a key part. You want a really sharp knife and you want to keep that knife clean for all of your cuts. And we'll show you that. And of course, if you want soy sauce for later, you can put that into a dish to serve it with. I brought out some of my pickled sushi ginger. I just had that at home, so I was like, yum, we can do that too. And then for my vinegar mixture, I'm going to be using a tiny little stove pot top. You can use anything you'd like. You can microwave it, or you can do it on the stove like I am. And of course, a pot for my rice. So let's go ahead and get started with rinsing our rice because we want that to finish up in time for our video to finish so we can make these rolls together. So go ahead and measure out 1 cup. And if you want to make more rice, if you have a lot of people joining you, you can do 2 cups and you're going to do a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, make sure to check the back of your box to see if those are the same directions. Usually with sushi rice, it is a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's always good to check. So I'm going to fill up 1 cup of that sushi rice and I'm going to start to rinse it. And I'm going to rinse it until the water runs clear-ish. I want to get a lot of those extra starches that make the rice goopy. We want it to be sticky, not goopy. If you don't have a strainer, please feel free to use a pot, run water in it, tip it so most of the water and hopefully not the rice comes out, and do that again a couple times. So rinsing your rice is something that you would probably do with basmati rice too, but it's pretty important with sushi rice. So make sure not to skip that step. I'm going to let it drain out a little. And then I'm going to pour it into my pot. And I'm also going to fill up 1 full cup of water to match my 1 cup of rice. The recipe says 2 water. The recipe says it says to use as much of as your, because everyone may have gotten different rice packages. Like I don't think maybe I got the same one as you. So do whatever it says on the back of your box. My rice is a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay, I got a little baggie and I think it's sushi rice.
Okay, cool. So then do a 1-to-1 ratio.
Thank you.
And then folks, I'm going to stir because I want to get the water evenly coated on the bottom. Sushi rice has a tendency to burn or at least stick to the bottom. And we're not going to be putting any oil in it. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir. And then I'm going to turn it on medium-high heat to get it to boil. And as soon as it does, I'm going to turn it down to very low because I don't want to lose a lot of the rice to the bottom of the pot. So getting that boiling on pretty high, almost on high, medium high. And then when we're ready, we can start making the vinegar mixture. So this is the key of what makes sushi rice. And even if you're using jasmine rice, you would want to make sure that you make this vinegar sauce because it's what makes sushi taste like sushi. It's like the huge flavor profile in it. And so I'm going to peek in and give me a thumbs up if you feel like you're ready to start making the sauce. Cool. Great. So we are going to do 3 tablespoons of your seasoned rice vinegar. And any rice vinegar works. 3 whole tablespoons are going into a pot that you can heat.
Oh, a pot.
In,
It's okay.
wipe this down. Do 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, you could use brown sugar. I prefer white sugar when I'm doing sushi rice just because it's such a simple dish that you do notice the taste change quite a bit. So we're going to do 2 full tablespoons of our sugar. I would do the same if you do not have white sugar and or you know, regular sugar, you could switch to maple syrup, but it probably won't quite be the same. So I do suggest using that if you can. So 2 of those are going in. And then we're going to use a ½ teaspoon of salt. I don't usually measure. I'm not typically a precise measurer, but when it comes to sushi rice, I am. And then I'm making sure to check on my pot.
Yeah.
Just checking to see if it's boiling yet, because when it starts boiling, I'll set a timer, or just if you're good at keeping time in your head, you can do that for 20 minutes.
We're using an instant pot, like a pressure cooker, and it said online to do a 1-to-1 ratio and to do high pressure for 8 minutes if anybody has a pressure cooker.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I need to get one. It's about time that I get one. There's so many good recipes to do with it. So I just gave my vinegar mixture a small stir, and then I'm going to put it on at like kind of a medium low heat. All we want to do is get that sugar to dissolve, and that's it. And then we're going to take it off heat and we're going to let it sit and cool a little bit.
And to mix it up.
So I've got that on medium. I'm checking my rice. It's almost out of boil. Leave it on for an extra second. And before I move on to any other tasks, I'm just going to sit with this until it's ready so that I don't lose track of it.
Brooke, how long did you say to set the timer for the rice?
I'm doing for 20 minutes, usually
20.
20 minutes.
Okay.
Is perfect.
Is it awesome?
And that's 20 minutes after it gets to a boil. And you turn it to low. So I'm going to set mine for 22 right now. And I'm at a boil, so I'm going to turn it down to low. I'm also going to give it a slight stir because I know that some rice might be sticking to the bottom without adding oil. So I'm loosening that, and then I'm closing it up, leaving it to be. So I think we can move on to getting our veggies prepped. So probably the most beautiful part of sushi is all the colors that go inside, the colors of the fish that you use. And of course, in this circumstance, we're just using vegetables. And this is, I always love doing sushi work because it gives you such a good chance to work on your knife skills. And so for all 3 of these, we're going to be doing a really fine match sticking, which I'm going to show, or julienne, which I can show on here. If you're struggling with that and you're in a rush, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just kind of want it in strips because you're going to lay it alongside your nori. So when I have a curved cucumber, which I have like this because it's not a perfect cucumber, I'm going to turn. Hold on, what was that? So I'm going to actually cut it right on the spot where the curve starts, because then I'm going to have nice straight lines on my cucumber. So you can almost stand it up like so. And then I've done this twice. I accidentally turned on the wrong burner. It's hard when you're not cooking with fire. There we go. All right, so I've got the ends cut off my cucumber. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna slice it into strips. So I did one down the middle, or you could start on a side, and I'm doing like a 1/4 of an inch of a strip. My rice is getting, there we go.
Start from the edge, and then I would make them like, you're trying to make flat sheets.
Yeah, well, you can make sheets, but I think what we're doing right now is, let me just show you, is I'm going to actually matchstick the sheet further. Like so. Now, there may be a question as to how long you should make them. You know, these ones are pretty short. That's just what I did. They can be as long as your nori sheet is wide. I just kind of prefer to have them smaller, and I can stack them along the sheet of nori that we're gonna roll onto. But we're just gonna do them like little matchsticks. You can leave them like this if you prefer. But I think it looks really pretty when you roll up your roll and it's in these perfect little matchsticks. I'm going to finish off my cucumbers like so. If you prep your cucumbers ahead of time, I found lightly salting them keeps them fresher, tasting longer. We won't have to do that today because we're cooking right on time, but
So then it's used. Yep, just skinny little strips. Like that. You don't have to do more than one at a time if you don't want to. You want to make them middle.
and so if we have time to do it today, I think we're going to try to both roll with the rice on the inside of the wrap and then challenge to do the rice on the outside of the wrap, which is a little bit harder, especially if you're not using a sushi mat, but I think we should have time today, which would be fun. Okay.
Should we be cutting out the seeds if they're kind of like
Big.
kind of big and floppy, kind of like that? It seems like,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have really small seeds in my cucumber, so I'm gonna leave those in. If they're like half the size of your fingernail, you might want to cut those. Just leave the more tender outsides, so you can cut out the center. But that's a great question. Thank you.
it just seems floppier than the outsides.
Yeah, it is floppier for sure. You could just eat those if you want. You can.
We totally are.
There you go.
This is a little big.
Okay. And once we're finished, if everyone's finished with the cucumbers, we can give me a thumbs up. And if you still need a minute, we'll slow it down.
Almost done.
Almost done.
Yes.
Okay. Compost, clean up my station. We're gonna do the red peppers next, which is kind of one of my favorite ways to cut a red pepper. When everyone's ready. Snack time.
The compost stuff. Some green beans.
Okay. We good for red pepper?
Mhm.
Okay, so we are going to basically treat this like a fish. We're gonna fillet this pepper to get the best part, the best taste and the best color we can in the sushi. You can eat what you fillet out of it, but I'm gonna find one of the widest sides. And I'm not really, I wanna cut it where I have less of a bend happening. So let's see if, yeah, that shows up a little on the camera. So I'm gonna slice it down. Okay, so I just have a small piece like this. And then what I'm gonna do, this is a fun trick that kitchens use a lot to make garnishes, but I'm gonna kind of, this is tricky because you're using a sharp knife, but I'm gonna kind of flatten it. And what I'm gonna do is get all of this kind of dry flesh out, and I'm gonna get it really to the base of the skin without cutting into the skin of the pepper. So, like so. So it becomes kind of almost clear. I can even go at that again, get a little bit more off. So I'm just getting the fleshy part off. See, that's what I came off with. And then I have this really firm, beautiful skin that this is what we're going to use. This can be a snack, or you can use it. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to matchstick it.
I will even cut this edge off to make it even. Now it's nice and flat.
So we have these like beautiful translucent red peppers. And here's the trick. This is not for this recipe, but if you stick these into ice water in the fridge for a day, they spiral up and turn into like beautiful little pepper curlicues. It's so fun for a garnish, and people are like, what is that vegetable? But it's just pepper, but it's really cute. They have to be in ice water though. If you ever find yourself superfluously wanting red pepper curlicue garnish, there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again, very carefully, paying attention. You can almost see your knife moving under the pepper, like so. Go ahead back in if you want to get a little more off. It's like the fun part for me, because it's like the actual sushi part, you know, it's like you're filleting fish. Pretty cool.
I'll get these kind of going.
Anyone wants to show theirs off, I would love to see. You may have cut them already. Nice. And I'm going to go for it again on the other side. So it does leave you with quite a bit of extra pepper, which you're free to snack on, or you can also cut it up and use it.
No, thin is okay.
Wonderful. There's that. And this one's going to have some yellow and orange. My pepper has a trichromatic coloring. It's quite beautiful. Other side. So my rice has 11 minutes left. And in a couple minutes, I'm just going to give it a check to see how it's doing. I even have green on this one. It's a 4-toned pepper. I just love all the noises that I hear in the background of like kitchen and cooking. It's like a very comforting sound for me now. Beautiful. Okay. These I'm going to save for a snack later. And this too. Something I was thinking of too that I wish we thought of ahead of time, but sometimes I get sick of just eating soy sauce with my sushi, especially vegetarian, and something you can make is a veganaise or regular mayonnaise based sort of hot sauce dipping sauce where you mix, it's traditionally done with sriracha, but you could use any other hot sauce and mix it with mayo and have that also be another dip for these. That's really good. Or of course, if you have wasabi or horseradish, you can mix it in if you want it a little spicy. But yeah. Okay, so I'm moving on to carrots. And so with these, I'm going to do a similar thing to everything else. We're going to matchstick them. If you have a huge long carrot, I had stumpy ones growing in my garden. You can cut that in half or in threes if you need to, but I think this is like a good length that I'm using for cutting. I'm going to do the same thing we did. I'm going to cut it into strips, top to bottom, for matchsticking. So we're going to have those beautiful oranges, maybe yellows, reds of the pepper, and the green cucumber. And then I'm going to matchstick. And these you can test your knife skills and try to go even smaller because they are so thick that they're going to hold up. They're a really strong vegetable, so they'll hold up even if they're teensy tiny, but be careful. Someone's rice is finishing, I think.
That's definitely our rice.
So you can totally turn, you can add your, if it's ready and the sugar has come down, you can add, looks like mine needs like maybe one more second and then the sugar will be melted. And then you can add that to your rice in a couple minutes once it's cooled a little bit. So if your sugar has already melted in your solution, bring it off heat, let it sit for a second, take the top off if there was a top on it.
If you want to do it in kind of like sheets like before, if you hang on 1 second, if you can't cut it safely that way, put it on a flat end like that and go like this down the side of it, kind of like we did with the cucumber. Yeah.
If anyone has any other creative ideas of vegetables that they would want to throw into their sushi, I'd be curious to hear.
We are using green beans from the share. So we're just taking them and like taking the seeds out of the middle part and then just kind of cutting the outside thin.
That's amazing. That's such a good idea. Green beans are one of my favorite vegetables. Should have done that.
Those purple green beans that you had growing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, a rainbow sushi roll would be so beautiful with those purple carrots. And one other thing too, I've had asparagus sushi before with like really fresh asparagus, which is great because we're in asparagus country. So that's something you can try in the spring when you have a lot of asparagus. And then my favorites have been, well, a pickled mushroom and pickled radish sushi roll, which sounds weird, but it's really good. And you know, tempura or sushi is obviously amazing, but you can tempura any vegetable. So I'm just going to finish up with my carrots. And there should be about, my rice has 6 minutes left.
I'm gonna let this steam out of the rice.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
should the rice sugar be thick or thin?
That's a good question. Why don't we take a look at mine? Mine is thin. The ratio of 3 tablespoons of vinegar, 2 of sugar. I mean, it's not a thick, super thin sauce. When you touch it, it has some weight to it, but it's pretty thin. It would just pour and drizzle out of there.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Good. Great question. Okay, so I'm gonna take a peek at my rice. Looking pretty darn good. I'll leave it on for maybe a minute or 2 more before I pour my vinegar solution onto it. And I'm gonna get myself prepped and ready. I'll be turning the camera after I finish with the rice so that you can see my sushi setup. If you have a free moment right now, it's a great time to get your sushi setup ready. And you might be able to see mine when I turn the camera, you will, but here, you know what? I'll take it apart for now. So if you don't have something called a sushi roller, which you can buy for like $1 at most Asian food not restaurants, markets, you can use a thick towel. And in my case, I don't have a thick towel that was clean. So I doubled up 2 and I folded them into a square. And then on top of that towel, I'm putting a sheet of plastic wrap. The plastic wrap only has to be larger than the nori that you're setting it on or setting on it. So I lay that across my towel, if I can do it. There we go. And then I'm going to take a piece of nori. And let me say, exercise caution when you open those packages of nori because I've ripped 2 of them. If you have scissors, you can use scissors and cut them open. Once they fold out like a trifold. That's why I have a different nori because I was both times broke them. This is just like a silica gel in there to keep it dry. If you open your package and you don't use it all, you can absolutely save it, but it needs to be in something like a zip, like an airtight bag, or else the humidity will get to it and mess it up. So try to keep the silica gel inside of it and then put it inside of a Ziploc and it'll stay. All right, so my station is set up ready for me and my rice. And right now I'm going to open up my rice and take a peek and see if it looks done. It definitely looks done. Got a good texture. It's sticky, but not too sticky. I'm ready. So I'm going to turn my stove off. I'm going to go ahead and pour in my vinegar solution. Once you pour in the vinegar, you want to start stirring right away. The stirring process is helping so the rice absorb this vinegar. It might kind of look like it's pooling at the bottom initially, but it will start to absorb it. So just stir it for a couple minutes. The second thing the stirring is doing is also cooling. Oh, you can't really even see what I'm doing. There we go. Is also cooling the rice. So I'm kind of lifting it, mixing it around, trying not to spill everywhere. Make sure your stove is off. Mine is. So it's getting weighted and heavier and easier to stick together. I don't know if you can notice that from the video, but it wants to stick together a little bit more than before. And I'm going to keep going until it really wants to stick together. So I'm going to do it over here where there's no heat, but where my arm can take a break. Sorry, that's my puppy Fanny. One sec. And right now it's really starting to coagulate almost. So it's, if you can get a good glimpse of this, it's like wants to make a mountain. That's a good sign to me that my sushi rice is getting close. Cool. Okay, so now I'm taking that off a burner that previously had heat on it because I want it to cool off as quick as possible. That's nice. I like the fanning technique. Very good. And the next part can get a little bit sticky. So you're going to need to have some paper towels on hand. I like to wet one just because I know that my hands are going to have paper towel on them as well. Or they're going to have sticky rice all over the place. So I leave like half wet, half not wet. There are tools that are made specifically for this that have, they're like wooden spoons that are round, and you can get those for like $1 at a market, and you can use them to push the rice evenly over. I usually just use a regular wooden spoon, and then I'll come through with my hands if it's not too hot. Just maybe y'all could tell me how far along do we think we are? Are people ready to start getting our sushi rice onto our nori? Give me a thumbs up if you are.
Thumbs up.
And
Yes.
okay. Wonderful. So now you'll notice your rice is really starting to stick together. That's a good sign. What I'm going to do is take a heaping, and that's my timer. I'm going to take a heaping spoonful of that, and I'm going to spread it on my nori. So give me 1 second because I'm going to turn my camera so that you can see all of what I'm doing over here a little bit better. How's that? That looks good to me. Okay. So I have a heaping spoonful. I'm going to put it right in the center. And I'm going to keep my rice nearby in case I need more. And I'm going to use my spoon to slowly and softly push that heaping tablespoon. And what I'm doing is I'm coming close to the edges, but not quite going deep onto the edges. If some get on there, it's fine. But you're not trying to completely cover every little piece of the edge. And I can show you, I can hold the camera up when I'm done and show you if you want to watch that first. Something else that's helpful is having a spoon or a knife or something to get it off your wooden spoon. Use 2 tools at once. And as far as thickness, I'm doing a pretty thin layer that's 1 to 2 rices high. And you can go thicker if you want a more ricey one, but this is kind of how I would rather have a lot of toppings on the inside. And at this point, my rice is not all that hot anymore. So I'm going to use my fingers to push it down and make it even. So I am on top of my towel. On top of the towel is the plastic wrap, the nori, and now the rice. And I'm going to find areas that look low and try to get more rice onto them. And this is where this wonderful paper towel comes in handy. I am going to try to make sure that it does have even coating. Like I don't want to see the nori very much on the inside of the roll. So I promise I'll take my camera and show you a little closer. Okay. Very tasty rice. Here we go. Don't get dizzy. I can do this. There we go. That's what it's looking like right now. The next step is adding our vegetables. So I'm going to start, it doesn't matter which ones you start with. The key is to not overpack them because it makes it hard to roll, but I am going to do mine in sort of mini strips. So I put about 3 and about 3, and you want it to run the whole length from the nori where the rice starts. So you can kind of stack them line to line. Okay, so I got my pepper, got my reds and yellows. Then I'm going to do some cucumber. And I'm kind of stacking on top / next to, more next to. Next to at a comfy, intimate way. Okay. And then my carrots. So I have a strip of veggies. Can you see that well enough, or do you think I should hold it up? The important thing is the size reference. So most of my block is free. There's a chunk free here, and the veggies started right there.
How much of your block is free? Like a third?
Probably, yeah, a third of the block is free, and then this is being used here, and it finishes the last third with nothing. Okay, So for the next step, you're going to want to make sure your knife is clean. So you can use a wet paper towel to do that. Have that knife clean and ready. You don't want any residuals or residue on it, and we'll be cleaning it in between cuts as well. And now it's time to roll. So there are two ways to do this. One way is you use your entire towel to lift and basically swoop over your veggies like this. Or if you don't want to do that, I'm going to reset. You can use just the plastic to do it. I think for a first time, it's easier to use the towel. And I'm going to show you the first one, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to pinch it. So I'm kind of getting my fingers under, and I'm pushing over. And then you can see my roll in here. I'm going to pinch it lightly, just around the sides till it makes that cube shape, or kind of cylinder rather. And then you can pull your towel back and take a look. That looks right. So I'm going to keep rolling. You could always pull it back and correct it if it doesn't. Then I'm going to pull my wrapper back a little bit and keep this in place. And you can either pull the wrapper up again and use it like that, or you can use your hands. So I'm lightly tucking, pulling back off the plastic wrap, pressure kind of all over, making sure that everything's rolling nice and smoothly and tight. And I'm continuing. And then the last one, I'm going to press pretty hard because I want that seal to be made on the sushi. Okay, so basically I have a tube of sushi or a sushi burrito. And sometimes you don't have to do this with someone else. You can use your spit. If you're eating it alone to feel it, it's the best sealer, or you can just use a little water. And what else also helps this is you can put it onto your cutting block with the opening side down, so the outside of the roll edge. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to turn you again, make you dizzy. Let's see, I want to make sure you have a pretty good view, so do a little switching. I've seen that they have these cameras nowadays that follow you as you're doing stuff. That would be pretty cool. Get a little bit closer. Okay, there we go. Okay, so on the edges, I like to use every part I possibly can. So this is another important part. The knife is clean, and I am going to start my cut. Now, a sushi cut is not a smash and pull because that will rip the nori. It's a really slow sawing action. You'll kind of feel when you break through the nori. Okay, I broke through the nori, and I'm going to continue slowly sawing without a ton of pressure. If you have really sharp knives, this will go a lot faster. And so I have my first cut. And for this one, because it's got a funny looking end, I'm going to stack it this way on my plate. Okay. And you can make your sushi as wide as you want. I like to do it how I'm usually, how I've gotten sushi out before. So it's a really slow sawing back and forth. Be patient with it until you get to the end. And then here's your roll. And then I'm going to put it on my plate. Again, clear, sawing back and forth, slow and steady. And now this time I cut and I noticed, you know what, my knife wasn't moving very well. It was too goopy. So you can use a wet paper towel, you can wipe it down, or you can wash it. It really makes a difference because the rice starch is sticky. I'm going to try it again. Let's see how this one goes. Way easier. So you could just wipe in between every one if you want them to be perfect. Awesome. And I experimented with making one a little thinner. Feel free to do that. Okay, so I got 8 rolls out of 9. Exciting. And when folks are ready, if you want to make a round 2, I would love if we could try something. I've tried it before. Sometimes it works for me and sometimes it doesn't, but it's fun. So we just did a roll with the nori was on the outside. I would love if we could try one with the nori on the inside. So what you're gonna do is the same thing that we just did before. Lay out your nori. You can use a fresh sheet of plastic wrap if yours got messed up, or just use the same one. Turning you. And we're gonna do the same process. Cover with rice. And exactly how you did it before. You can press it out, use your fingers. I'm sure it's a lot less hot now. It's going to be messier. That's for sure. Because it gets a little more sticky the more time you leave it out. And this one, if you want to give it a little bit thicker of a coat to use up your rice, feel free to do that. You might lose some along the way, but that's okay. And I'm going to prep myself with another paper towel because my hands are already so sticky. Trying to even it out.
Less pressure.
Okay.
That's how I would do it.
Get a little more in this corner.
With this.
Now, before you start putting your veggies on,
But you got this
I do something else.
sauce.
When you're ready, you're going to gently remove the nori from the plastic wrap it's under. And you're going to try to not get the rice to fall off. And you're just going to flip it over. Don't feel hurt if it doesn't work. It doesn't always work for me when you roll it, but it's worth a try. And so you do the same thing, leave that little space for the roll. And I'm gonna do carrots first. And some cucumber.
Oh.
Oh, no drag.
Also, I don't know if anyone started eating yet, but I want to see your sushi rolls. So if you
We haven't eaten yet, but these are our rolls.
beautiful. Oh my goodness. Isn't it such an exciting feeling when you make sushi? It's like, this is art. This food is absolute art.
It's awesome, and you can't really lose because even if it falls apart a little bit, it still tastes delicious. So
Totally.
I'm here
Thank you
for
for saying that because I don't know if you can see mine.
No. Oh, beautiful, Amy. Those are great.
Mine's a big mess.
It's a big mess. Well, you can try again. And I haven't always rolled them perfectly. It's hard, especially this one that we're about to do. So I'm going to try this method with just the saran wrap so I can really see what I'm doing. And I'm using my fingers to tuck. Okay, so I've got my first fold and I'm going to press it nice and tight. The trickier part is getting the rice separated from the saran wrap. So I'm going to go slow and light. Okay, this time you do want to continue with this saran wrap, not just your fingers. Your fingers will pull all the rice off. It's so hard when your rice fingers are covered in rice to not eat it. Okay.
we're using a cup of like cold water. Like we just put cold water in a measuring cup and we keep dipping our fingers. So that helps with the sticky, like kind of coming.
Thank you for the advice. Okay, so I'm gonna do my second roll now. Using the saran wrap, and then my second hand as a guide. And I'm gonna give it a nice firm press. And that's gonna help solidify my sushi rice onto itself as well. So I've got my sushi tube. And I see mine's a little uneven, but that's okay. Yes, thank you, cold water. That's the best solution ever. It works so fast. And I'm gonna do my third wrap. I'm gonna press
A little bit of water.
and maybe even push it once more further.
What do you want in?
Okay, so I have the other tube and I'm actually gonna transfer it to my cutting board with the saran wrap and just roll it off.
I have a quick question. How did you get the rice on the bottom? How are we just supposed to flip it?
Oh yeah. So you basically you make it with the rice as normal and then you're gonna gently lift it and flip it. It's a little bit tricky, but it works sometimes.
A little bit. So
So
Thank you.
yeah, of course.
everybody in. Everybody in.
All right, now I am ready to cut round 2. Gotta leave room for my soy sauce on here.
Roll this back.
Okay, so this part is gonna be tricky, but I'm gonna give it a shot.
You might do it. You might do it.
Not gonna use that end.
Mhm.
You know what? I was just thinking it might make sense to use your plastic wrap to hold the sushi in place so that it doesn't get all over your fingers. I'm using the same slow and steady cutting. And mine fell apart, but it's still really pretty.
Still tastes good.
Let's see if I can get the next one. I'm gonna give it a little squeeze. I'm not gonna give up yet.
Good job.
It's easier to
Look
cut.
at all the cuts. That's good.
It's easier to cut it bigger.
All right, we got one in a whole piece. Exciting.
You want to cut this one? Or do you want? I'm gonna put it on the plate, I think.
So that was a fun challenge to try it out with the rice on the outside. That's a really difficult thing to do. Congrats to everyone who gave it a try.
Right.
Yeah.
We did a rice on the outside one, kind of. It looks kind of like a dorky burrito, like it's kind of like
Yeah.
end, but like the stuff on the inside shifts around more, you know?
Yeah, it does. But I think it's awesome. And it's great to try out new skills. And just like it was for mine definitely the ones that I did with the sushi or the rice or the wrapper on the outside look a lot better than the ones on the inside. But that's okay. And then I still have a lot of leftover veggies that you could totally toss with soy sauce or miso and sugar and make a little yum veggie treat. Or if you have miso soup at home, I love having the combo of sushi and miso soup.
Yeah.
I'm now and use a little pickled ginger. So if you've never made this at home, it's pretty easy to make at home. Mine is not made at home. I just already had it, so I wanted to use it, but you can just slice ginger really thin or mandolin it, put in some vinegar, salt, rice vinegar preferably, vinegar, salt, and sugar, and make your own pickled ginger if you'd like. I'm gonna put a little. And if you want to do it right now, you could. If you had ginger, you could just do it on the stove really quick for like 5 minutes. and heat it. And then a little soy sauce. Maybe after class, I'll make a mayo, sriracha mayo dipping sauce.
That's what I'm making.
Yum, they're so good. Anything with mayonnaise for me. Yeah, and there you have it. If anyone else wants to show us their sushi, which we'd love to see, or if you want to send a picture too, even if it turned out funny.
I think that my rice needed 2 cups of water instead of 1.
Did you get the rice in the bag?
Yeah.
Did other folks get the rice in a baggie? And it worked with one?
It seemed to work. I mean, some of the rice got a little burnt, the stuff that was on the bottom, but
That kind of always happens with sushi rice. That happens with mine too. Great.
but we did it.
Yay.